Welcome to Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I am a philomath who is somebody who loves to learn things. One of the things that I've learned is that everyone has a tale to tell and a lesson to teach. From pilots to farriers to musicians to authors and creators, I'm going to explore my interests while introducing you to some amazing people. Pre-flight is complete and we have clearance, so let's kick the tires and start the fires. Well, folks, as you know, you can learn from anyone, but if that person is a Certified Flight Instructor with Instrument Rating, CFII, you know you're going to learn from them. Well, I've been up with Chuck Dahmer a few times now, and let me tell you, sitting in the left seat next to this man just improves your flying every minute you're there. So I asked him to sit across from me and do this interview, and I think you're going to enjoy it. He's lived everywhere and done everything and has had quite a full and amazing life. Sit back and listen. We are cleared for takeoff. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sitting here with a pilot extraordinaire, geologist, all-around hand, Chuck Dahmer. And I got to be honest, I don't know Chuck well, but I've flown with him now for about, 4 hours. I just took another mountain flying course from Chuck, like I did 2 years ago up here in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And what an honor. Chuck, welcome to Final Approach.
Well, thank you, Chris.
It's been amazing. So I got to tell a quick story. I'm from Missouri, 1,000 feet elevation. Chuck flew me in Leadville. Flying by the book, we land on the runway 16. I turn around, everything looks okay, and the plane dies. 25 hours into its overhaul. Man, that was a bad deal, wasn't it?
That was interesting. Took a minute to figure that out, didn't it?
Yeah. Luckily, I had enough speed to coast into an unused part of the airport. We sat there for a while and played with mixture, and Chuck figured it out. We got into the FBO, and the AMP said, oh, yeah, we have to haul flatlanders out of here all the time. So it was quite an experience. So Chuck, 68 years old and retired.
68 years old, retired a couple times now, 3 times, I guess.
Okay. And what has been your jobs?
Geologist and pilot. So the best flying experience we had was my wife and I were bush pilots in Africa for a while.
No kidding. What part of Africa?
Southern Africa, South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia.
No. How long did you do that?
The project lasted about 2 years.
Was this a geologist project?
It was a little bit of both.
Not a Christian mission.
No, we're no mercenaries or missionaries.
Okay, all right.
As they say over there. Mostly just supplying our project we had going.
And so what years were that, sir?
That was about 10 years ago.
So there was some modern avionics and stuff.
No, it's Africa. After your airplane is fully worn out and the radios are all scratchy and one of them doesn't work, then the airplanes go to Africa. That's when they fly them. So,
did you have to have people light fires to mark the runways for you and stuff like that?
No, we were not allowed to be out after dark.
Oh, okay.
So it's so black at night. There's absolutely no lights. You have to be somewhere before sundown. If you're instrument rated, you can file an instrument flight plan. You can fly in night in Africa. A lot of times the airports are not lit and a lot of them are dirt.
Right.
There's a few paved ones and they do have pilot controlled lighting.
Man, and what were you flying over there?
It was a 206. Cessna 206.
Now, you and your wife, how long have you been married, sir?
Oh my God. Don't
listen, Dahmer.
I'm going to say 40 years.
When did you become a pilot?
My dad was an Air Force pilot. So he was bound to turn one of his kids to learn how to fly. So I started when I was 16 taking lessons.
Cool.
Just worked my way through it since.
So that was 52 years ago.
Quite a while.
Man, has the airplane changed a little bit in 52 years?
Not really.
But the inside has, huh?
The avionics definitely have improved. A lot of the planes still have the old stuff. The Cirruses, they're all brand new. That's a high performance airplane and it takes quite a bit of training to fly those. But the Cessnas and Pipers are all pretty much the same they were when they came out in the 50s.
I'll be dang. What company did you work for that sent you to Africa?
It's called Hydrocarb Energy, which is now gone. It's been sold. So I was a geologist and we took our airplane over there with us.
And that was a...
Oil and gas.
Oil and gas.
Oil and gas. I was an oil and gas geologist since I got out of college.
And did you go to college here at Colorado School of Mines?
Arizona State.
Arizona State. Okay. You were raised all over the U.S., right? or all over the world?
All over everywhere. So my dad was transferred every 2 years.
Wow.
There's 5 of us kids. I have 4 siblings, and we're each born in a different state and country.
That's pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's you really appreciate family, when you get to see them.
And do you speak other languages?
I learned Spanish in high school, which I kind of remember. I learned German in college, and I learned Russian on the job. So I'm probably better as a foreign language, probably better with Russian.
No kidding. Did you do a lot of stuff in Russia?
Yeah, I was there off and on for about 15 years.
I assume you can live wherever you want. Are you living where you want right now?
Absolutely. Daughter, husband, who you met, and 2 grandkids are here.
Okay.
So we're all in Steamboat.
And is your daughter a pilot?
She is not. I don't know why.
It's available.
It is available, and her husband's a pilot, and my wife's a pilot, and I'm a pilot. My dad was a pilot, so sort of runs in the family.
Yeah. So do you know how many hours you have?
About 3,000, I think, maybe a little more. I've lost a logbook or 2. I think I write a little over 3,000.
Oh, okay. I would have thought it was more than that.
Well, it probably is. Maybe 3,500, but I'd have to go back and find all my old logbooks.
Of your hours, how much of that's right seat?
Almost all.
Oh, okay. So you became a CFI early.
Yeah, pretty much. And then my wife's a pilot, so she takes the left seat.
Did you teach her to fly?
I tried, and that's another story. So it was back before we were married, and I was working on instrument instructor and multi-engine instructor with a little Irishman named Eddie Coyne, who was originally from Chicago, was a World War II Navy pilot. And then he was working United Van Rhines as a rep down in Houston, Texas. So I worked with him. I got mine. She wanted to start learning to fly. And I said, sure, I can work with you a little bit. Well, my goodness. I hope she doesn't hear this, but it'd be, honey, I think you're a little low on final here. Says, well, I think you're being critical, and she's going to kill me. So anyway, I got Eddie, who was the spittingest little Irishman you ever met. And if he did something wrong, he would just physically take a chart and just start beating the person who's making the infraction. And he'd start getting excited, and he would spit when he talked.
Oh, nice.
So I said, well, I'll tell you what, Eddie's really good. Why don't you go fly with Eddie, and she did. So I kind of hid behind the trees, and they came back after her first lesson, and she's out bouncing around, smiling. I said, well, how was it? It was great. Eddie's wonderful. I'm like, oh, great,
Yeah.
So they, she finished up with Eddie. He's a character, but a really good pilot and a very good instructor.
And he saved your marriage, maybe.
He saved our future marriage.
Does she get commercial and CFI and CFII and all that?
She's only worked on her private.
Okay, she didn't do her instrument either.
No. So she basically says, well, I got you. What do I need that for?
I'll be dang.
So we've flown all over instrument and everything, and clouds and rain and whatever. And I'm an instrument instructor, so basically she's getting dual instruction when she's flying the airplane.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be hard for her to get it, huh?
No, not at all.
You've flown, do you have any idea how many different kinds of airplanes?
Ooh, probably over 30.
What would be your dream airplane for a private pilot guy flying around?
I'd probably have my Turbo 210 back.
Turbo 210.
We had a Turbo 210 for about 10 years. If you can get it through the door, it'll carry it. It can cruise at over 20,000 feet, and it had oxygen, and it goes very fast.
Okay, and the turbo was no problem to deal with then?
Not really, no.
Because when I was looking at the Lance, the guys were telling me, well, you don't want a turbo because they're always busting and always a problem.
Ours, we had very few problems with the turbo itself. Sometimes it would have the what do you call them? I call them pop-off valves, like a pressure relief valve might go out. And I had a partner in it, and he was, I think he was chief pilot for United Airlines. He would go up really high. I would go, I'm up 15,000 to get over the hills. He would go to 22, 24. This thing isn't acting right. And you go, well, how would I know? He says, well, nothing happens until you go over 20,000 feet. And then this problem kicks in where it's not making the full manifold pressure. I go, okay. So he'd find things like that. But it wasn't too bad. Our annuals, we rarely found any problems with on annual. We'd find some problems during the year and just have them fixed.
Right. Like any plane.
Yeah.
And how many planes have you owned?
Oh, let me think. A 152, a 172 Cessna, Grumman AA5 Tiger.
How was that?
That was fun. It's got a big bubble canopy. You can slide it back when you fly. We had a 206 and then the 210.
Is the 206 what you took to Africa?
That was a different one.
Okay. All right.
So that was there, and we got it there. We had a 182 shipped over.
What does it look like to ship a plane to Africa? How do you do that? You
take it to where the shipping agent is. They'll take it all apart, and they'll put it in a shipping container.
No kidding.
So they pull the wings off, they drain all the fluids, and they have a special cradle they'll build around the plane, and put it in a shipping container. Then when it gets to wherever the destination is, it gets pulled out, trucked over to an airport, mechanic puts it back together. Then they have to find someone to test fly it, which is usually you, and sign it off.
I'll be dang.
And the nice thing about it still had the American registration, the N number. So if it's in South Africa or wherever, Zimbabwe or Namibia, as an American pilot, you can show up and fly that airplane because you have an American pilot's license.
So who owns that airplane?
The company did.
Okay.
So, but then if you
had, so like another guy that was working for the company went over and needed to replace you for a while, it wasn't a big deal.
No.
I'll be dang.
If you want to fly African registered airplane, you just have to get a validation. So you'd go to a flight school, they'd sign you up, they give you an instructor for a day. You learn the air traffic control rules, which are a bit different than ours, and some of the procedures. You go out and make a round robin flight, and you've got a validation. And I have it somewhere. I have an African validation. You get an actual license. It's actually got your picture on it.
Oh, wow.
And it's good for, I think, 5 or 10 years.
And so what was the air traffic control like in South Africa? Was it difficult?
No, but it's a combination of flight service kind of acts like air traffic control, and then they also have a center, especially around Johannesburg. So if you're flying somewhere and you have a flight plan, say from Windhoek to some other place, you would check in with their flight service, and he's physically putting little markers like Monopoly tokens on a board.
Oh, wow.
And keeping everybody separated. And he'll tell you, hey, you've got a King Air at 20 miles to your west and headed on this heading. And he'll call and ask you, where are you from this VOR? So you have to stop. There's only like 5 VORs in Africa. And you have to, it's like, okay, I'm 550 miles on a heading of 332 from, the Windhoek VOR. And like,
wow.
Okay, So it's like, and you just say standby. They don't care if it takes 10 seconds or 5 minutes for you to figure it out. So, but it was a lot of fun.
And so where did you live in South Africa?
In Windhoek.
In Windhoek.
In Namibia. So we'd fly into Johannesburg and then over to Windhoek.
All right.
And our project was in the north of Namibia.
Did you get to go to Kruger or Pilanesberg and check out the animals are amazing there?
It is. In the north of Namibia, there's Otosha National Park, which I don't even know how many 100 square miles it is, full of every kind of animal. They're basically unmolested. When you drive through there, you're not allowed to get out of your car.
Okay.
For good reason. It's lines.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time up there. We knew the warden that ran the park, went on some little escapades with, excursions with him. Saw a lot of the critters, and it was just absolutely fascinating to have, say, a group of elephants walk by our truck and just kind of stick their noses in there and sniff and keep walking, and little babies with them and everything. And then you'd see a pride of lions standing there, and when they start yawning, it's trouble. That means they're getting up and they're hungry. Okay. So if the lions are just laying there sleeping, flies on their face is fine. When he sits up and yawns, it's time to move on.
Okay, good advice. Well, see, you're going to learn so much listening to this podcast. I got to be honest. I don't know how many hours I spent with Chuck in my whole life now, maybe 5, 6. And every minute I've been learning something. In fact, we flew for 2 hours and I said, no more. I'm so saturated. I can't learn anymore. So this is very interesting. Now, did you live in Russia?
I did. I was there on another oil project, and I was there usually 1 month, a month and a half, then I'd be home a month.
And what was that like?
It was different. I mean, Russia's not a rich country. Everyone lives in big cement apartment buildings.
So were you like in Moscow or?
No, we were out in Siberia.
Siberia.
We'd go in Moscow if we had some meetings, or we'd come through Moscow on the way in, fly out to Siberia, and then we'd be there for 4 or 5 weeks.
And did you fly in Russia?
I did with some Russian pilots.
Okay, so just for the experience, not for a job.
Well, the way it worked back then, and I don't think I'll get anybody in trouble, but I would take some sectional charts and I'd just send one up to the pilot. And then they go, oh, okay. And they bring me up there and they go, are you a pilot? And I go, yeah, I am. And they go, cool, have a seat. Co-pilot, get out of here. So I get to fly right seat in the Russian planes, especially if it's a charter. They just teach me how to fly it.
Wow.
So we're mostly in what it was a Tupolev 134, which is kind of like a B-17 with jet engines. So it's pretty antiquated, but they're rugged. I mean, these things can land on dirt. Oh, yeah. So like a massive bush plane, huh? It looks like a DC-9. Okay. So it's a big airplane and 2 engines in the back. But it was, I can't remember, maybe holds 60, 80 passengers. And they just let you go up and fly with them. Huh? If we're on a charter, sure, they come up and I'd fly all the way, from A to B.
Were you able to do any radio work in Russian?
They speak Russian on the aviation radios.
I don't know. Were you able to do any radio work?
I didn't talk on the radio. That would have given me up. So I know I was probably not allowed to do that, but they did. They let me up there, and I knew the guys because we'd see them over and over. But I did not speak on the radio, and at certain times, you don't talk.
Okay.
The CVR is running. It was interesting. Their airplanes are that took like DC-9 had a crew, had a navigator, an engineer, 2 pilots, and a loadmaster. So it was interesting flying over there. The whole Russian aviation system speaks Russian. So around Moscow, where the foreign flights come in from the States and Europe, the controllers speak English.
Oh, okay.
But they'll be speaking English to the English-speaking pilots and Russian to the Russian pilots. So you can't get a sense of awareness of where everybody is,
right,
unless you can understand both of them.
Now, did you get to do any private pilot stuff in there in Russia?
They really don't have private pilots. They're working on that, and it's getting a little more loose, and they have allowed some people to take lessons. They don't have very many training planes.
Okay.
So you see the little Yak 52s and a couple others. That's what they have for trainers.
Where else have you lived?
Oh, my goodness.
Everywhere, huh?
Live, work, travel in probably over 50 countries.
50 countries.
So
that's amazing.
I can't imagine which one I like best, but maybe the United States of America.
Yeah. Well, that would be my choice.
Yeah.
What about flying? Did you go try to fly in Israel or go try to fly in Germany and stuff like that?
The funnest place I did that was in Dubai.
Dubai, okay.
And there was a little, what are those, I forget what the name, an aeropract light sport from Ukraine. They had a whole bunch of them there. So we got to go fly with one of the local guys in Dubai. So we got to fly out over the Gulf, over town, everywhere in this little 2-seater. It was pretty fun.
I bet a lot of the Dubai sheiks and stuff have planes, huh?
They do. They accept 747s.
and they're not flying them.
No, they got their own guys.
Yeah.
I don't think they're flying them. There was a full 747 simulator in Dubai at this, you call it amusement park. It's where the Formula One race place is. They have a polo field. You can take polo lessons. There's some other fast go-karts. And they had a 747 simulator in there.
Wow.
So it wasn't full motion, but it was everything else is the Canadian-built simulator. They had a electronics engineer to run it. And you can go in there, he'd load up whatever you want, and you could fly a 747 for $60 an hour.
No kidding.
So we did a lot of that.
Did you go crash one to see what it was like?
It couldn't really crash. Well, I could. And the guy said, don't crash it because it takes me 30 minutes to set everything back up. It's like, okay. But we did take it. We flew to Centennial Airport. We flew to, Longmont. We flew to DIA. We flew over the mountains and in the simulator.
Right.
And had a good time. Went out. We took it. Said start out in San Francisco. We tried to fly under the Golden Gate Bridge, but wouldn't let us go under.
Oh, okay.
But we could go right over it. It was so we were just hot rodding around, doing some instrument approaches. It was a nice simulator.
Can you teach a guy to fly with a simulator by himself?
I think it's in conjunction with the real airplane. It's a good tool.
Okay.
So especially for instrument pilots, if you get on the simulator, it just keeps your wiring in your brain straight for instrument flying. And it is a valuable tool. Even the small ones on your laptops are good. Here at the airport, we have I forget which class it is. You can log time on the one that's in the next room.
Oh yeah, and so does it actually count as time towards your private pilot? Okay.
It does, and towards your instrument rating.
No kidding. Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a nice thing. We can walk in there and have a look at it next.
All right. Now, how long have you been a steamboat?
That's a good question. I think 5 or 6 years. Probably 6 years. I think 2017 we moved up here.
And did you come from Houston?
We came from Centennial down by Denver.
How many people have you taught to fly?
Oh, I couldn't even imagine.
Just in the hundreds, maybe.
Probably 100, yeah.
Well, you're not a man who has sat around very much, huh?
Well, I got to keep moving. I think if you sit down, that's it, right? So
True enough. Is there anything that you wanted to do that you didn't do? Did you ever say, man, I really wish I would have, climbed Everest or something?
No, I've done some high altitude hikes, but no, not really. I think I've done everything I set out to do. I had some goals in the beginning, and I pretty much met most of my goals.
Currently, you don't do a lot of flight instruction. You don't want to teach primary, right?
We have a flying club here. We have 2 airplanes. We just don't have one instructor available enough to keep people going through the private pilot program.
Do you have a lot of people interested here?
We do. The other thing is it kind of beats up our plane.
Sure.
So, some hard landings and all that. And we looked at it a couple of years ago and went, well, gee, we, had blah, blah revenue out of this little trainer, but it cost us blah, blah plus to get it. So it's kind of losing money doing primary. So we will take for Steamboat Flying Club, we will take rated pilots. If you're a private pilot or better, anybody that wants to get an advanced rating, we'll work with them. So instrument, commercial, flight instructor. We don't do ATPs, but because we don't have the equipment. We can do all that, and we'll do that.
Are you ATP?
No, I'm commercial.
Commercial.
For the people that want to do the private pilot, we send them over to Kremling. So they have a flight school there, and it's a 50-minute drive. They have 2 or 3 instructors, I think, that are full-time there, and they take our guys. And then we'll take them when they come back. So we've had a few come back and rejoin the club or join the club. One of them was the young man you saw earlier with the baby outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Daniel. He went and got his private pilot in Longmont, came back, signed up for the club, and he just finished his instrument with me.
Okay. Now, does your wife fly very often?
Yeah, she gets out. We're going to go out here probably tomorrow and go flying around a little bit and keep her current.
Well, that's pretty cool. So now, can you teach me something unrelated?
Yes, I'll try.
Okay. This is Kelly's contribution. My wife said this need to be part of the podcast. So
how about going real slow on a motorcycle?
Perfect.
There's a thing called the Police Motorcycle Rodeo, and you can watch that, and they have lessons on that, how to not fall over on your motorcycle when you're going very slow. So I just did a lot of that, and the key to that was using your clutch and your foot brake, never touching the front handbrake.
Okay.
And then when you lean the bike, but your posture is straight up.
So you have your bike leaning at 12 degrees or whatever, and you're still at 0.
Right. Or 20 degrees.
Or 20.
So I went through a bit of that here recently, and most people get hurt on a motorcycle at very slow speeds. Once it's on the highway, it takes care of itself. Gyroscopic action in the wheels and blah, 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 and very little input. But once you're down in the gas station, the parking lot, and need to turn around on the highway, it's kind of tough for most people.
And you have a beautiful motorcycle out there. What is that?
That's a Indian. 2015 Indian Chieftain. So
how slow can you go?
About 5 miles an hour.
5 miles an hour.
And make turns.
And have you performed at the rodeo?
No, I have not. I'm not good enough.
Not yet.
If you look at some of those videos of the police motorcycle rodeos, it's incredible what these guys can do.
No kidding.
They set up a million cones. They go through these things. They can turn around in 12-foot radius.
I would imagine you're very good at that.
I wish I was.
Your ability to stay calm and just kind of like go with the flow out there as a flight instructor, it seems like that lends itself to that pretty well.
Yeah, being a flight instructor, there's tricks. You got to let them mess up without hurting themselves or the airplane.
Or beating them with a sectional. So I guess now we have iPads. You'd be hitting them with an iPad.
That'd hurt. There's little tricks like with the new guys. You've got your hand nonchalantly just down here, but I'm only 2 inches from the yoke. And I got my other hand right here, and I kind of close to the throttle and talk them through a landing, or I can help them if they need it. So the hardest part is soloing them. Send them on the first solo. Someone will say, well, my buddy did it in 8 hours. Like, your buddy doesn't know how to fly in 8 hours, so it's going to take us a while. It doesn't go against your total, and you got to be safe. You got to see everything the airplane can do and be competent.
What do you find to be the magic hour number for a guy to go take his PPL with the DPE?
Right now, it's probably about 60 hours.
Okay.
Because of the more complex airspace we have now, the more complex avionics, if it's in the plane, it takes a little more learning to get that. Like I said, the simulator helps. I can do a couple hours in simulator and get a lot of that without any kind of risk, and it's cheap.
Right.
DPEs now are of course, looking at their skills and how they're thinking. Okay, what's your personal limit on crosswinds? Yeah, maybe 8 knots, maybe 15 knots. It's what they've been supposed to.
I guess I should clarify for the non-aviation folks out there, a DPE is a designated pilot examiner. These are gentlemen that you go to whenever you are ready to get your private pilot license, which is a PPL, or your instrument, or your commercial, or whatever. And I asked you if you were a DPE, and you said no, thankfully, huh?
If you ask me, okay, if I'm taking off in Class G airspace and the visibility is a mile and 1,000-foot ceiling, and all of a sudden I'm in Class E, am I legal? I'm like, well, oh man, I don't think so, but let me look it up. Well, those guys can spit it right out. So
right.
They're amazing. They are pulling for us. They're hoping you pass.
I know.
They're not looking for an excuse to fail somebody.
Yep.
If you're at a tower airport and someone cuts in front of traffic when they weren't, fail. Or you might get a discontinuation, but they are pulling for us. And I know several in the area here. They're all good people. Ladies too.
Yep.
There's a lady in Longmont that is a DPE and an instructor. Here we have one. He's here part-time. He's a NetJet captain. And we have another guy down in Grand Junction that's the same way. They're pulling for us though.
Yeah, I've been an examiner on the farrier side of things. And the young guys that are trying to get past certain levels of exams, they don't have any idea how much the examiners are hoping that they're successful. It's not till you're on the other side that you look back and you're like, oh, you know what? He really was on my side, even though I didn't know it at the time.
Exactly.
And if you don't pass, quite honestly, you probably is probably a good thing, and it's going to mean your safety or the horse's safety. In the case of a plane, the plane safety, So,
and a lot of times, someone will have a problem with something; they'll get a discontinuance.
Right.
Or they only have to come back and do one thing like steep turns or, for example, but the rest of it they passed.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a discontinuance on some of these things. You go, okay, you go practice with your CFI, get your steep turns down where you can hold altitude and come back.
Yep.
And that's it. You go get tuned up a little bit and then they pass.
Yep. And oftentimes they're so nervous that
that's it.
They're their own worst enemy in those situations. Yeah.
That there's a nervous factor. And they understand that. If you're 100 feet too high and you go, oh, I'm 100 feet too high, let me get down. Admit it, and they'll probably let you slide, because you're nervous and they see it. They see everything.
So where did you do your first flight? What state or what?
Oh my goodness. It'd be with my dad in Arizona, probably at Falcon Field.
So was that high altitude as well?
No, it's only like 2,500 feet.
Okay. So when you go from here and you fly somewhere like Houston, do you find it just so easy to fly down there?
Yeah, Houston's great. Gulf Coast, you get some weather. It's just got some cloudy skies, but if you have an instrument rating, you just stay on top of it. You descend through it. And if you need an instrument approach, you land. It's easy. The controllers in Houston are really good, especially if there's thunderstorm days. So a couple times I've headed down there and I've gotten to like College Station. I see a wall of black and I go, wow, I think I might just stop here. And he goes, work with me, I'll get you through, and sure enough, that got me right through there. And I was down there in Sugar Land before I knew it.
And you only crashed 3 times doing that, huh?
Only. Yeah, not bad. So pulled some wings off. But yeah, there are controllers everywhere. They're also pulling for you.
Yeah. For
instrument flight, sometimes, you might get off altitude and they'll nudge you back subtly at first. They'll say, 1701 Echo, current coming altimeter is 3110. And you go, oh, 3110. Okay, thank you. And that means look at your altimeter.
Right.
So you give me a little gentle nudge. You go, oh, wow, I'm 100 feet high. Down. If that doesn't get corrected, then they'll tell you.
All right. And did you have a joke for me?
Oh, my goodness. I think we're talking maybe a dad joke. So, all right, this is a groaner. If you take a man flying, he flies once. If you push a man out of an airplane, he'll fly the rest of his life.
That was a great one. Listen, everybody, if you are a pilot and you want to get better at flying, it doesn't even matter the mountain part of it. The amount of stuff that I've learned with this gentleman in the shortest amount of time is incredible. And as you know, I'm an educator, so I really appreciate that. And if you guys have the opportunity and you want to go do some mountain flying, Steamboat Springs, look up Chuck Dahmer. Chuck,
come on up, guys.
It has been an honor, and I can't tell you how much I've appreciated it. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Chris. It's been great. Been a nice day. Thanks.
Thank you. It feels good to feel good. Of course, I can't jump off a tailgate and land flat-footed on the ground like I once did, but apart from joints, my innards feel good when I eat good. And man, I can really tell the difference on those days when I don't fuel my body with great food. You'll feel that difference too once you start eating good protein that was produced the way the good Lord intended. Animals that are raised eating non-GMO grains and grass that hasn't been sprayed with insecticides or pesticides are expensive and hard to raise. But that doesn't matter to CJW Pinot Ranch. They're willing to do what it takes to create the food that they want to feed their children and allow you access to their amazing product. Visit cjwpinotranch.net today to start improving the way you feel.